MOBY.
And I think there's something about a little write-up on that Ross Gray and Nina both. But isn't that kind of picturesque looking?
Very.
And now, from there we go on. I want to try and keep these in the same.
You've got 90 minutes to do it in.
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep the noise on the TV. You can see it.
This is in Dublin.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah. This is Molly Burke and her husband Paddy, not Petty, Paddy.
Paddy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And this is 1954. And her father was Uncle Danny Ryan. And her mother was Sherlock. Okay, that's where the double. And we stayed at their house, at their little house. And Grandpa met them. We didn't stay. We stayed at the hotel. Oh, that's a picture of Noni. Noni Sherlock. That's one of William Sherlock's children from Ireland. Oh, here's Aunt Leila. It was in the thing. That's their church.
My home church.
Wrote that down. The thing that Aunt here to Mom. No, let me see. I think these things that's okay. They were all backwards. You got that? You saw those two?
I got those two. There's more in there. Did you know that?
Well, we'll get those out now.
Okay.
I don't know where the ones that I'm really looking for. Oh, okay. These are Mariah's two daughters, Etne and May. They're some of the oldest ones. May, when I was a little boy and living on Washington Square,
Okay.
May came over, and Sister Leila and her were, she was like running the hotel, and she came over here to see what like meals in the hotels and all that stuff was like and stuff.
So these, it says Grandma wrote nieces up here. So these are Grandma's nieces,
Yeah.
and so they would be your
Cousins.
So they're are these your first cousins? These would be your first cousins?
First cousins once removed.
Okay.
You don't know no big difference. Second cousin is a whole other strain.
Okay.
If you're from the same generation, you're like, yeah.
I mean, like Chrissy and I are first cousins.
Yes.
Now Gabriel and Chrissy are
our first cousins once removed.
Okay.
I could never get that straight.
I know.
Yeah. I always thought you guys were second cousins.
Yeah,
you know?
me too.
No, people use second cousin, but second cousin is not as close
Okay.
a relationship. And I don't know which one that
look
is.
at this.
It's
Anna, this is Mariah's girl.
I saw
It
it,
says
but you put them
Mariah's
out.
girl.
yeah. Probably May, I
Wow.
suppose. I don't know which one.
All the chocolate covered
And
cherries.
this is
You heard
a
me
typical
You just kept walking
looking Irish cottage.
said
Irish
you know?
homestead
Yeah.
with traditional thatched roof.
Yeah.
Is there a deer bag? A veggie deer bag? Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah, yes.
All know that you're Americans, so plastic and
Probably be out there.
And this is it's just a lot of the Sherlock family.
Sister Leela.
Sister Leila
Yeah.
and one
I've
sister.
seen pictures of her.
These-
Is Aunt Nancy?
No,
Is
this
she
was
in
be in
here?
Ireland, so it
Oh,
wasn't.
okay.
No.
This one of these is Aunt Beatrice, and the other is Aunt Emily. But I don't know. My guess is that's Emily, and that's her son, Jack Dalton.
Okay.
and that this is probably his wife at that time.
They must be
He
from
wasn't married when
Pennsylvania.
I was
They're
there,
all warmed
you know,
up. It's gotta
visited
be
with him.
Pennsylvania, not
And
Tennessee.
this is Jack Sherlock from Ireland. That's some of his kids. I suppose that's his wife.
His
right?
wife, yeah.
And some of their kids.
Are those names written on the back of there at all?
No, not on this one. No, that's what I was gonna ask Mom for a piece of paper. So, or did you already write when Aunt Will and them were here?
Not- you know what we need to do? We need to like number the pictures and then who's in them somehow.
Yes.
Picture one
Yeah,
and
but I wanted to write down like from Grandpa's family, like his mother and father,
Right.
and then Grandma's mother and father. You know what I mean? And then like
I don't know. This is Aunt B and Jack Dalton, but it's like after somebody's funeral. Now, he lived in Dublin. Aunt B didn't. Aunt B lived close to where that
What? He didn't bring an extra box of chocolate.
was after somebody's funeral. I
I
don't
thought he was
know
going
who.
to shop for some. He didn't, did he?
Yeah.
I don't see any.
He talked
We
about it.
had these.
Mhm.
And I had, the kids got David dolls for Christmas.
My sisters and mother, whatever it says, I don't know. Read it.
my sister and another Leela.
Oh, okay. There was different nieces and nephews. Our niece is called Leela
Oh,
besides
okay.
Aunt
That's
Leela.
what it says. My sister and another Leela. That's what Grandma wrote on it.
Yeah, that was probably Aunt Leela sent that. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know how. Actually, there's
Their
from her
sister Leela.
passport.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at
From her
that.
passport. Yeah.
That's the doll that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That's Grandma Friedman.
So that's in Ireland,
Let's see.
There's Aunt B, and I don't know
Oh, it looked
everybody.
like Grandma Friedman from back here.
Yeah. I have an idea that it might be Aunt B there, and I don't know who this. Somebody's getting married. It might be Dermot, but there you can see one of the cottages again. But all of them didn't have thatched roofs,
What
you know.
nationality is Grandpa?
Grandpa who?
Your dad, Grandpa.
Oh.
What?
Well, that's what was, that's
Well,
what the
that's
big
what
discussion was.
that's what Chucky's been researching on the computer, and he's got it laid back now. We never had Eisman back only to like early 1800s.
But you know where his family, where his family came from? Yes. Like his
From
mother and
Little Falls.
Little
No,
Falls.
from beyond.
from
before.
beyond before Little Falls.
No,
Oh,
no,
we don't know.
now I do, because Chucky spent hours and hours on the computer and getting
Let's just
in
say we
Eis-
might not be wearing wooden shoes. We might be wearing lederhosen.
Yeah,
What's
that's right.
What?
No wonder we all like sauerkraut.
You mean you think we're German?
You are, no
It's-
question about
It seems to be more
Well,
German
wait a
descent
second.
and not
Okay,
from Holland.
let's go on with this.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna have to go back because
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, well, I was told the same thing, honey. I was lied to my whole life.
Well, so was everybody, you know?
What did we know?
There's Sister Leela getting on a plane for Ireland at one point or something.
I would like to get a copy of a picture of Sister Leela. I really would.
I know.
A copy of what?
A picture
Picture.
of
Well, we
Sister
can.
Leela.
I mean, and even if we pass a Walmart, you can get them on those Kodak things. You can
Yeah.
take a couple pictures and just take a.
yeah, I would love to
Quick duplicate
get a
her.
picture.
This is two of my cousins. These are Sherlock girls. I probably took this picture myself. It's Noni and Peggy.
Just put Noni and Peggy on the back.
And
might as well write it
they,
on there.
they both,
Noni, N-O-N-I.
well, her real name is Nora, but everybody called her Noni.
So N-O-N-I.
Yeah,
E
put N-O-N-I.
with an E after the I think.
Noni and
Peggy?
Peggy.
Yeah. Sherlock. And you can write 1954. And they were,
This was
Well,
taken
we
in
went-
Ireland.
yeah,
Okay.
we went down And we went down to where they lived in Rusk. No, where I showed you this,
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
whatever. And they came back with us, and another sister too, Emily. Emily and Peggy. Peggy and Noni was the younger, and Emily and Peggy were a little bit older. And all three of them came over here to Syracuse. And first Noni did.
To live?
Yeah. And I think somebody told me Peggy passed away. The last time I saw her was at Aunt Nancy's funeral.
Noni lived with us for a little while.
Yeah. And I think somebody said she's not too well neither. She moved down there in Kingston. Because I went to the door, my clerk and I were coming back from New York, and I said, let's swing over. He used to do my driving mostly. And I said, I got a cousin. I haven't seen her in years and years and years. And we found the address, and I went up to the door. She knocked, and she came to the door, and she said, yes. Now this is after I hadn't seen her. This would probably be about 75, along in there, 1975. And I hadn't seen her since, I don't know, since she came over in I think 55 or something like that. Knocked on the door, she came to the door, and she said, yes, can I help you? And I said, Noni. And she looked at me, she said, Chucky Heisman? And now the next thing is her sister Emily that came over. And she had 3 kids, I think, already. And her and her husband and his cousin and his wife were going down to Philadelphia to the Army-Navy game. And they got down near Cortland. The guy had a heart attack and smashed into their car coming out the way, and they all were killed. And the wake, they had 4 hearses, and Noni took, I think she had twin boys. Twins or not, Noni took the 2 boys, and somebody else took the girls, but she kept the 2 boys together. She had kids of her own, so she raised her sister's kids. Okay. You can read the back.
A widow, my lovely sister Emily.
Yeah.
Oh, Emily.
And
Mrs. Dalton had
her foot was chopped off by
a foot taken off by
Black and Tan.
Black and Tan.
Lori.
Lori.
Yeah, Lori's a truck.
1920. Her 2 sons, Jack and
Dermot. Jack, I never. Dermot was away or something, and I'm not certain. But Jack used to come to Molly Burke's each day to have his lunch.
She means she had a foot taken off by.
Lost her foot. The thing ran over her foot.
You know, if you just look at the top part of that, it reminds me of Bud in his kid pictures with the little pomp. I don't know, it does when you look back at the young pictures of Buddy. To me, it does.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely family resemblance.
God, yes, I think.
Left to right, and okay. I can't read it. Left to right is.
Left to right in group. Babs.
Yeah.
Dennis Corkery.
Yeah, that's her. That would be Leila's husband, I think.
I went up.
Groom, bride, Gris.
Well, I don't know. They're probably get a.
Mother, aunt, Mrs. Corkery, Mrs. Kitty Spooner.
Yeah. Okay. Kit Spooner was Noni's and Peggy's older sister.
Okay. Patty Burke,
Yeah.
Joe Spooner, A. Drowning,
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that.
and Patsy Corkery.
Which one?
Patsy, it says back, left to right, she's the last one, Patsy Corker.
They had big ideas.
So the back,
Having dinner out
from
in the pot and
left
when I was
to
got
right.
there so that-
So what's the big
Let's
deal?
see
In
here.
there, it's only. it's
I
before
think
6
Aunt
o'clock.
B had 2 daughters as far as I know, you know?
Instead of staying
And
there,
Aunt B was, when I was there, puffing away on Players cigarettes, you know? And Grandpa,
I'll live in a
When-
dream world.
no, I'm sorry, my grandpa, your great-grandfather,
They make these
said
colors-
to
They make these colors now.
Grandpa
Yeah, look at the
and Uncle Justin,
6 different
was
ones.
Aunt Florence's husband.
Skincare.
If you ever see them with a cigarette in their mouth, just slap it out. And this is Jack Dalton. That would be Aunt Emily's son. And I think there might be writing on the back to tell you who they are.
Jack, South, Muriel, and Nancy Newman,
I don't know them. They,
Rex O'Connell, the wife of Muriel's brother.
their sister Leila and her wife down in the hospital.
She worked in a hospital?
64th birthday.
Yeah, she was
cake.
the operating room nurse. In
She was
fact,
an okay.
she had charge of 3 operating rooms, I think, and then used to teach operating room procedures to the
Oh,
student
okay.
nurses.
Are you talking about Sister Leela?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know she was a.
I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure this is Grandma Juja and Sister Leila, and I don't, that might be Grandpa Juja's head cut off, and I think that's Jack and Sis Sherlock, my cousin. Oh, I don't think there's any writing, is there, or is there something? Take a,
It's hard to read. It's like an address more so than it is like a person type.
huh?
Jericho.
Gallbladder?
Gall.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm almost damn sure that that's Grandma
Oh
Juja.
my God, it looks like Mom.
And that I think might be Aunt Frances. I'm not certain, you know. And I'm thinking that's Uncle Johnny and that Sister Leila, and I think that's Jack Sherlock and Sis Sherlock.
Oh my God, doesn't that look like Grandma
Mhm.
when she was so thin?
Mm-hmm. It does.
She's the one that got hit by the car.
But not after she got her tube feeding.
Oh no.
And those little cheeks puffed up. Her eyes all big blue eyes.
And then her mouth every night, waiting for her junior mint. Remember, you'd get her all done,
Yeah.
and she'd lay there and go, wait for you to set her junior
Yeah.
mints on her tongue.
Yeah, and then I'd say, okay, well, and I'd get ready to leave, and you'd go, I didn't get my candy. I said, I gave you your junior mints, Mom.
No, you didn't.
I'd say, all right, and I'd go back with another one, open the mouth all full of chocolate.
Somebody was bidding.
This is niece and nephew. I don't know who. You know. It was some of,
Yep.
oh, here's a picture of a lot of them in the family.
That is a whole group.
Sister Leila, and I think that's Emily, and I think that's Aunt B. And or did you see this? There's a very similar one. Jack. That's,
Yeah, this isn't, this might,
that's Jack
this
Sherlock.
is a
up in-
similar one, but it's not the
Not-
exact same one,
yeah.
so.
The Bella clock.
Taken
It's coming.
in
Bell
Belknap.
and the clock.
Yeah, Sunday, June 14th, 1964.
Yeah. See, that was 10 years after I was there.
Came to the bottom of the days. There was a couple at the top.
Well, maybe we take them out of the way.
You see any resemblance at all to any the family
Yeah,
resemblance?
yeah.
When I came over we came over in the boat, and there was a train that took us from where the boat lands up to Dublin, and got off the train, and this man and woman were there, and they walked up to me and they said, "You're Chucky Eisman." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Well, I'm Peggy and I'm Seamus, you know, your cousins, and it's family resemblance." I think that's probably Jack Sherlock, and I don't know if it says anything on the back or.
My nephew and family and
Jack.
in-laws, 1963.
And I think that's Jack. That's
Can we go through and dump it out?
Jack Sherlock also. I mean,
What?
Jack Sherlock's. There's different Jack Sherlock. This one is from
Nephew and family.
Ireland. What's it? I can't. What's the date? The Sherlock family, and what's the date? 1945
I
or?
think that says 45.
Well, Noni would be.
William W.M. Sherlock.
That was Uncle Grandpa John's brother, William,
Okay.
from Ireland.
I think that's a
And
1945.
He had
Did you get this?
Kit, I know, and Emily, and Peggy, and Noni, and Jack. I don't know how many more. There looks like there's a few more there too. He had a sizable family. See, I don't know if these were younger brothers of him. If it was 45, it could be, because Jack was growing when I was there.
I think that's a 45.
Yeah. So Noni had to be a little girl there someplace. And I don't know which one was Kit, you know. Taking a Bellaco.
Yep. Same day. It says Sunday, June 14th, 1964. So they must have taken like several different.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's Jack Sherlock and sister Leela, and Jack's kids and his wife. I guess that's Jack too.
There's some stuff written on the back there.
Tipperary. It says C.O. Tipperary, so County,
County
Tipperary.
Tipperary,
My
yeah.
nephew, 1964, and family. Jack Sherlock. Yep.
This is, I think this is Aunt Emily's two daughters, but I'm not sure what's it say in the back.
Nieces.
Or not Aunt Mariah's, maybe two daughters. Does it say?
These two girls.
These two girls. Okay, that's Leela, Corkery.
Chrissy, Babs, and Chrissy.
Yeah.
Is that what it says? Babs, B-A-B-S, and Chrissy.
Yeah.
Best wishes from B-R-I-E, Bree, and Babs. I don't know.
That's Jack. Oh, this is Aunt Emily. She's the one with the foot chop. She had us up for dinner. And Seamus and Peggy were there too, and Jack. But her other son, I never really met him. I don't know. He was out of town or something. I'm not certain. I don't know what the deal was with her husband. His name was Dalton, and if he deserted the family or died young, but she raised the two boys from that when they were kids, you know. And she looked, I don't know if you can see it here, but if you saw her and then saw Grandma so many years later, she looked so, it's not in this picture here, but I have
Well, I can see a lot
I
of
have a lot of
resemblance in-
pictures that I took, and
My sister Emily and grandchildren.
this is Sister Davila, Aunt Leila, and Aunt Emily. I guess this is.
Almost.
This
Do you want me to pull them out
sister
there?
and or his cousin, Aunt Emily also.
So Grandma wrote this. This is Grandma's writing.
I think it might be Sister
Well, I
Leila,
mean,
but I'm
she's
not
saying
positive.
she's saying my sis. It doesn't look like Grandma's.
No, that's Sister Leila
Oh, okay.
wrote that. And there's Sister Leila and Jack.
Oh.
It's Jack Dalton. Not the Jack Dalton your mother knows. He's a cousin. This is from Ireland. Oh, well, a cousin actually from Ireland.
Yeah, because my godfather's what, Bobby Dalton.
Yeah,
right?
his.
Oh, Bobby Dalton's your grandfather?
Yeah. Aunt Mamie and
Oh, okay. Here's the ones that own the hotel. That's the two daughters.
Oh, okay.
here's a few more.
It's Aunt Judy.
I threw it in there, yeah.
Let me see. Let me see. Oh my God!
Did you see this picture of Molly and Patty Burke with me? They lived in Nottingham Place off the North Strand in Dublin.
Oh my God.
Well, is that address on there?
Well, they don't live there anymore.
No, but put where that picture was taken.
Where is
yeah.
it again?
Exactly.
On Nottingham Street in North, 1954.
1954.
Yeah, and it's
Okay, I can do that.
Patty, D-A-D-D-Y, and Molly,
Oh, nobody's.
M-O-U-R-K, or M-O-L-L-I-E.
Mhm.
And their name is Burke, B-O-U-R-K-E.
B-O-U-R-K. Okay, Patty and Molly Burke, 1954.
Yeah, in
And what was the
Nottingham Street.
Nottingham?
It's right in front of their house. Off the North Strand. Strand is a big wide street that runs up through. In Dublin.
North Strand and Dublin. Got it.
And that's my Uncle Danny Ryan, Grandma Juju's brother.
Oh, okay.
Is that written on there? Because there's some writing on that.
Chuck and Uncle, what would you say his name was?
Dan.
Dan,
Ryan.
yeah. Chuck and Uncle Dan. That's what it says.
You could put Ryan.
Dan Ryan.
R-Y-A-N, Ryan?
Yeah.
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 Juju's brother. Grandma Juju's brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well, you keep calling her Grandma Juju, but what was her proper name?
I put Grandma Juju's brother
Yeah.
on there.
and there's me and Molly Burke and her son Seamus.
Oh, okay.
And Seamus would like to have come to the States, and I was going to have him over and work on the grains with me, do the brewer's grains. And his sister wrote to Grandma and asked to back off because if Seamus left Ireland, it would break his mother's and father's heart. So Seamus never got over here. Well, that's Noni. Well, it's written on the back, I guess.
Now, has anybody been to Ireland, like, recently, to, like, see any of these?
Since these? Oh, yeah. Sure. I mean, since I was there in '54, yeah, I went back a couple times when I'd be going to Germany.
I know, but
and
has
stuff.
anyone gone,
No,
like, in the
since-
80s
no.
or 90s to see, like, cousins or, you know what I mean?
Is it on my list of things to do? Yeah.
Your to-do list?
I have saved
would-
up so much traveling money, it's like unbelievable. I've been saving up traveling money for 2 years. Because I want to see Germany and Ireland and...
I would love to see
You
Ireland.
told me when you
Go
were.
and go see these, you know?
Well, I'm thinking, I'm doing that as we speak, and I think we need to get the potatoes
How many-
out because they're gonna be
How
just
many
mush.
more,
Judy, two shoes, two
chairs did you
shoes,
bring up?
two good
Chairs?
shoes. What is that?
One today. Do
One?
you wanna shut
Yeah.
that off for a minute, please, so you don't
I
feel
think
all
we're,
wobbly?
I think we're basically, yeah.
Dear Anna,
Just didn't want you to waste.
We have to wait until it's
well,
ready.
It's
ask me the
recording.
Oh, it's
questions
ready?
on-
Yep,
I'm
and it's an
prepared.
extended...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was waiting to see how many minutes like
Stupid
popped
in
up.
front of the camera. All right, you already told me, but I didn't write it down. Grandma Juju,
Got 1 hour.
Grandpa John, both grew up in Ireland, but what
Yes.
was the county?
County Tipperary,
They were both from.
yes. Grandpa's family came from Nina, Nenagh. It was 4, like a postcard with 4 pictures.
Yep,
Okay.
and Grandma Juju.
From, as far as I know, from a little town very close to there called Templemore.
Templemore.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we went through all the kids. We got John J. Sherlock, Aunt Mamie, Grandma, Aunt Florency, and William, right?
Yeah,
And that's all of them.
it's all 5 of them.
Okay. Now what about, should we go further back with Grandma's family?
If you know a generation, that might be...
Whatever you want to.
Right, go back one more?
Yeah.
From
You're
there?
talking about the Sherlocks. I mean, the
Okay,
same
go,
family, right?
yeah, well, let's go back with Grandma Juju's family, her mother and father.
I don't know their names. Grandma he had a big fit when I asked her.
Really?
You know, and then she came back and said, I just wasn't ready to answer questions now. Some other time I'll tell you.
So she never did tell
No,
you?
no.
But they were from, well, obviously they
Well,
were from Ireland,
yeah.
and they were 100, they had to have been all Irish.
You know, and from what I can remember, Grandma Juju's mother was blind.
Was blind?
I suspect I had diabetes, because there's diabetes in the family.
Yeah.
And,
You
Don't
think it
know.
goes back as far as that, maybe?
oh, yeah, tendency for it, I would guess. I'm, making a guess at that.
Okay, then what about the Sherlocks? Grandpa John's parents. So your great
I never met them. I saw their graves. It's in outside of Nina, where Grandpa John's sister lived, Aunt Beatrice, Aunt B.
Okay.
And across the road from her, where she was living, was a churchyard, and that's where Grandpa John's mother and father was supposed to be buried.
Do you know their names? What about, okay, you know all of Grandpa John's brothers and sisters. We went through them. Can you just tell me their names again? I'm going to write them down.
Grandpa John's, who I believe is the oldest sister, was Marie. It's just Maria, but it's pronounced they always call
They
it Marie.
pronounced it Mariah.
Yeah, not Mariah like Mariah Carey, but just Mariah.
Okay.
And her maiden name was Mahan, M-A-H-A-N. And her husband owned the Wicklow Hotel in Dublin.
Wicklow Hotel. That she married a M-A-H-A-N?
M-A-H-O-N, yeah.
O-N. That's who she married.
Yeah,
And they owned the, what was the name of the
the
hotel?
Wicklow, L-I-C-K-L-O-W. There's also Wicklow County, but it's in the vicinity of Dublin. Their hotel was right in the heart of Dublin, right in the business district.
Is it still there?
It was there when the last time I was there, because Grandpa came over and we went around to different countries like that, and we went to Ireland and Grandpa and I stayed in a room in the hotel.
That was 54, wasn't it? Or was
When
that
Grandpa
later?
came over, 56 or 7, I think.
Okay, so there's Mariah.
She had 2 daughters,
Schnauzers?
Okay.
Etnie,
Great D.
I think it's ETTHNEY, I believe, something like that.
Dalmatians?
And
Oh, those are like the fire guys.
May was the other daughter.
Etnie and May.
Yeah.
Okay.
And okay.
Mariah.
Yeah.
Beatrice?
Huh?
Beatrice? Is that another one?
Yeah, and the next one is Emily.
Emily.
Aunt Emily. Her married name was Dalton.
Just
Dalton.
She lived in Dublin also.
Okay, now that's another Dalton, right? Because Aunt
It
Florence.
had nothing to do with them.
Okay.
I won't be at work to know.
And she had 2 sons. Dermot
That's over? Okay.
was the oldest, DERMOT, and Jack Dalton. And she had lost her foot.
Oh, Aunt Emily's the one who had lost her foot?
Yeah, the British truck ran over her foot. The British were occupying Ireland at the time. And they ran over her foot, and she had to have part of her foot amputated.
How much am I missing out here? Yeah, they have 60 minutes.
And as far as I know, something happened to her husband. I don't know, ran off or died or whatever, but she raised the 2 boys on her own. And Beatrice, Aunt B. Yeah. Just like was a TV show years ago, Aunt B.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith Show?
Yeah.
Was that Aunt B from the Andy Griffith Show and
Yeah.
Opie?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aunt Beatrice, she married
She was. Her name was Burke. Her married name was Burke.
Burke.
B-U-R-K-E.
Was it B-U or B-O-U-R?
No, there's 2 Burkes.
Okay.
Hers was B-U-R-K-E.
Okay.
And she had a couple daughters. Well, they got down Babs and Chrissy. I don't. There was also. I thought it was one of those daughters was named Leela too. There's lots of Leelas in the family. They were all named after their aunt Leela. You know?
After Sister Leela,
Yeah.
right?
So she has at least 2 daughters.
Okay.
And I met the whole family because I was at her house. And but I think it's a daughter, as far as I know, was Leela Corkery. Or it was Babs Corkery, and her daughter was Leela. I'm not sure. But,
Okay. But definitely Babs and Chrissy, you think?
yeah, and it could have been one of those people. Kid was Leela, and then there's next down the line there's other Leela too. Okay, so you got
We've got
Aunt
Mariah,
Mariah,
Aunt
Aunt
Emily,
Emily,
Aunt B.
B, and Aunt B didn't live in Dublin. She lived outside of Nina in a place called Ballyloughclough. Ballynclough. It's just like a little settlement.
What's the matter with you?
Now what about Aunt Emily? Did she live
She lived in Dublin.
in Dublin?
Mhm.
Okay. So who comes after Aunt B?
Well, we better stick Sister Leela in there someplace, so she was one of the older ones, you know. Right along with B and Emily, you know.
Okay. Sister Leela.
And her name, her real name is Johanna.
I could focus
It
in.
is?
Leela was, you know, what she took when she was a nun.
Oh, okay.
Sister Mary Leela.
Okay, Johanna is her name again. Sister Mary.
I think you said
Leela?
three would be 1.5.
At that time, all the St. Joseph's nuns was Mary so-and-so, Mary,
Oh, okay.
whatever.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah, for maybe
Of course, she had no children.
Yeah.
And
And where did she,
so if I do
where did she live?
3,
Well, I know she
Kansas.
quarter would be.
Kansas.
I know.
Uh,
It would be
The
only
story
one package
that
of
I had
pie,
heard about her
2
is when
cups
she was a girl, some guy was chasing her,
of
and
liver pudding.
she thought she was going to be raped or
I
you know,
thought it was
like
they
that.
increased it a little bit for
And
one
she
package
promised
of
that
pie
if
means 2
if
cups
God
of
kept her
liver.
safe,
Oh my
she would
God.
run around the borderline. Yeah. So when she was like 17 or so, she they recruited her to St. Joseph's Nun, and she came there and learned to be a nurse.
Okay.
And she was a nurse for like 65 years or
I
so.
know, oh my God.
But she was born in Ireland.
She was born in Ireland. They all were born in
And then
Ireland.
she left Ireland when she was about
17, maybe 18, 17, I think.
Okay.
And St. Joseph, St. Joseph's of Candle, or was it Candlelay is well, anyhow, Sisters of St. Joseph's, and she was a nurse, and she was in charge of 3 operating rooms and taught operating room procedures to the student nurses. And she was in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and she was at a couple different cities in Kansas, Mount Carmel Hospital
Do you know where she was buried?
out there, but where their sisters are buried.
In Kansas?
Yeah.
Is that where the St. Joseph Church, Kansas?
Well,
Or-
the St. Joseph's nuns taught her mother and me too.
Oh, okay.
St. Jan's, but it was like Eastern ones, and there was like a Western headquarters too. And so she's buried out there, and all the nuns are buried like in a communal cemetery, you know, like the mother house for the ones from around here down in Albany.
Oh,
Must
okay.
put my thinking cap on.
They have a big home for the old nuns to retire and die in. You know. Okay.
Okay. So we've got Mariah, Emily, Beatrice, Sister Leela.
There were 6 girls, and how many have I counted out now? Right.
2.
And-
We've got 4 girls.
Hey, did you
Oh, okay.
goldfish?
I'm giving you pretty much in order. Now, there, Grandpa John had a brother, if you want to write him in there, William. And he had quite a few kids. Kit,
You want me to shuffle some?
Emily, Peggy,
Will you shuffle mine?
and Noni. That's I know that
Oh,
those 4.
Noni.
I know those 4.
How many trays?
And then there was Jan Sherlock, Jan too.
Okay, it's Kit, Emily, Peggy, Noni,
I feel
and John.
Yeah, and I think there was probably a couple more, but I don't know. I met a whole slew of them one day when I was there, you know?
Yep.
And
We need pie.
and you got Jan down
You
there.
know how many trays?
You
Jan,
know, and I knew that.
Is William son John?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know William's wife's name? Or who he married? Or?
No, no,
Okay.
I met her. I didn't meet him, but I met her. I'm not sure if he was dead or
Where did he live also? In
they
Nineveh or in
lived in Ross Gray.
Ross Gray?
Yeah.
You just saw it, you know where it is.
That's right.
Well, you know, I'm not positive of that. Kit lived there. That's where we went to visit. That was the oldest sister. And her name was Spooner. She married a guy by the name of Joe Spooner. And I'm not sure if the girls,
But now I have to have a
if they lived right in
official one.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Rusgrave or
But, you know,
closer
only
to
hopefully
Templemore.
somebody that really
I
knows
don't really know.
Right.
I have a write-up from the Nationwide Insurance Company, because that's where the three of them that came over here worked. There's a write-up about the three Irish girls, and I'm not sure if it mentions their town or not. But anyhow, it would be in the, it's in county, they're all County Tipperary.
Okay.
Now, after that came, can you remember Jackie Gleason and all?
Yeah, the name.
Jack Gleason?
Robert Gleason, yeah.
Okay. His mother. No, I'm wrong. His mother was a Ryan, not a Sherlock. Aunt Nancy was the youngest. Her real name was Anna.
I'll do her notes just while we're on.
And her married name was Memo. M-E-M-M-O.
Well, that I know, yeah. Uncle Alex.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of who the other sister was, because there was 2 boys and 6 girls.
I can put this one on, it won't be so.
How did they meet?
No, that doesn't help.
How did Aunt Nancy and Uncle Alex meet? Because he was
Make a-
full-blooded Italian.
Make a guess.
What are you playing?
Make a guess. If you were to guess, somebody you knew put them together.
Oh, Grandma?
Yes.
Did Grandma did she? Now, how did Grandma know Uncle Alex? How did she? Did they get together after they were in the United States?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a little bit like before I was born. And I was her favorite.
Didn't they live like in an apartment, like right not far?
We lived in the apartment. My grandmother, and my grandpa's mother
Okay.
was a 3-story apartment, and they lived on the 2nd floor, and Buddy and I and Grandma and Grandpa lived on the 2nd floor. And next door to it was a fruit store,
What street was this in Sarah?
Salina Street,
Salina Street. Okay.
in North Salina.
Very
And Aunt Nancy came to visit, and Mom said to Alex, I got just the girl for you. Aunt Nancy down to meet him, and they ended up getting married.
Did they have any children? No.
I asked you that before.
I'm trying to think who the hell the other girl is. You only got 5 girls, right?
Where? Chrissy, where are those pictures?
The pictures I have?
Oh, Aunt Judy.
Oh, she has them? Okay.
Yep, they're gonna be scanned.
Julie's husband is going to put them on a disc.
Oh, okay.
And everybody's gonna get like a first disc.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Oh, good.
Oh, I know the other sister.
Okay, what are you gonna do now?
I don't know her first name, but it was a Sherlock girl, married Grandma Juge's brother.
Oh, okay, that's where there was
Double
the...
cousins.
Okay. You don't know her name, though?
No.
Okay. So another, I'll just put another
Do
sister.
you have
Is she
any?
married a Ryan then, right?
Uncle Danny Ryan,
2 patches.
who was Grandma Juge's brother.
And I tried to do the layer for Dan, then putting, then, putting one, then banana, and then putting in it, just, it was like, I said, you know what?
So you only have to have 2
Make a heavy layer of banana in the middle. Then just put 1 layer of, instead of trying to layer it.
They had, the only one I know about was, their daughter was Molly,
So you should have asked me if I had another queen.
and her married name was B-O-U-R-K.
Oh, okay, that's the other birth?
Yeah.
Okay.
and she was married to Patty Burke.
That's, I saw their picture, and it was Patty, P-A-D-D-Y.
Right.
Patty Burke. Okay.
And they had two kids, Seamus, S-E-A-M-U-S,
Okay.
and Peggy, who was older than Seamus.
Okay.
Julia Roberts
Peggy.
played Mary something or other. Wasn't John
They're the
Nelson?
they're the ones that came and meet me at the train station.
Doctor, and they said you're
Yeah, and you're Chucky.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it was.
See the resemblance.
Mary Riley.
So we have 7 of Grandpa John's brothers and sisters. Are there more?
Well, Grandpa John himself.
Okay, so that's 8.
That's
So
eight. There was 2 boys and 6 girls. That's all I ever knew about.
Is over in Ireland, honey. That's where your name sounds.
Yeah, but it's like the name
You
is
got
more
Grandpa John
common.
down to start with, so that's
Yep.
Don't know why.
That, I'm not sure.
Now can we do some of Grandpa's?
What would you want to do, Grandma Judas?
But you don't know them.
Yes, I do.
Somebody
Oh, I do.
stole something and
I know.
there was like money gone and
You
no
just
money
didn't know
comes in
about
my year,
her
only on paper.
parents. You just didn't know about your great grandma and grandpa because grandma didn't tell you, right? Or would it?
At the time, yeah, and she never got a chance to it. Okay, their name was Ryan,
Once you do a
and they came,
you ever go back to it?
as far as I know,
Once you
from
do it,
Temple
it's done,
Moore,
and then it's
Ireland.
whatever.
Grandma used to say sometimes Temple there, but it was Temple Moore, and she used to say it was the Ryan Archie family. There was Ryan this and Ryan that, you know.
I just
And
wondered if
they were not as well-to-do as the Sherlocks. Not that the Sherlocks were rich or anything, but
Right.
I don't know if
okay.
how,
The oldest one that I know about, and I think probably so, was
What was his property?
Rodney. Well, Uncle Rhodey. They call him, Grandma called him Uncle Rhodey.
Harold D.
And he came to the United. He lived in Syracuse. They all came from Ireland, though, by the way.
Orlando. The Orange Blossom something. I'm quite sure
And
that was
he
him.
was married to a woman that I never met, but her name was
Right,
Aunt Ellen.
probably, yeah.
I was quite sure that was him.
Yeah, Ellen what, I don't know, you know.
Actually a high population worker.
And they had
Then I
5
don't know
kids.
whatever happened to Al, either Caledonia. Oh my God, he was fine.
They had, no, they had, yeah,
This is Grandma Juju's brother.
Grandma Juju's brother, right? They had 5 kids. Raj, I suppose it's Raj, or I don't know. Raj. And then next came,
Camera work and pictures and everything. This is in the, more the
I think William,
They worked it all day.
and Josephine and Agnes. You may have seen them at some time. They used to ride up to see Grandma. And then Danny. So there was,
That's 5. Roger, William, Josephine, Agnes, and Danny.
yeah, that was his 5 kids. Next was Aunt Bridget, and she was a spinster. She was a seamstress. She never married.
What was her name?
Aunt Bridget,
Aunt Bridget.
yeah. And
And I remember everyone's first name was Maureen.
the next one was Aunt Mary.
Joking around in one of the rooms, we were all partying.
She was the most jealous. But I mean, everyone I'm telling you about came from Ireland. And she was married to a Scotchman named Will Monroe.
And the more you try to get them off, the tighter they got.
And they didn't have any kids. It was my understanding she went through change of life in her late 20s. They didn't have any kids. And Uncle Will was the nicest man you ever knew. And she died, I think, of cancer because Grandma used to go out and help take care of her. And they lived in outside of Marcellus, the village on the long hill that goes. I don't know how much you remember about Syracuse or.
Oh, I remember Syracuse and Marcellus.
And Marcellus was along the east hill and the west hill, and
Yeah. Grandma went out to take care of Aunt Mary?
she used to go out and help. Yeah, when she eventually died, you know.
Do you know what was she just old age or was she sick?
No, she was sick. I think cancer. I believe. She was not a young kid, but not old enough to die like me. And Uncle Will, when Grandma was very ill when she was a teenager, and
Grandma.
yeah, she had what she
Scarlet
said,
fever?
typhoid pneumonia.
Is that why her hair turned white?
Yeah. And Uncle Will used to come every week to visit her and leave $5 for to get stuff for her. You know. He was an awfully nice man. He usually didn't stop till until he died. He used to come and visit all the time. And he had his hand chopped off, or all of his fingers and his hands different. He was a millwright. He used to fix all the machinery in the mill in Marcellus. And he was down doing something to release something, and somebody came by, threw the switch, and started the thing up, and it ground up his hand. You know? Okay, so Aunt Bridget sent for Aunt Mary. Aunt Mary sent for Grandma Julia.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you got Grandma Julia down there. She was the next one, and she was married to John J. Sherrill.
Remember what a name looks
Got it.
And you can refer to the Sherlock side to find the 5 kids. There, it was Uncle Johnny, Aunt Mamie. Okay. Now,
Aunt Mamie and Florence and William.
yeah. And now the next one in Ireland was Uncle Danny Ryan.
She doesn't have like a good friend.
You got the nameless Sherlock Earl that was married to Dan Ryan. But this is Grandma's brother, Danny Ryan.
Okay.
Look, I'll show you the difference.
He was in County Tip too.
Hold them together.
And
Yep.
the next, and well, you got it also. He was married to a Sherlock
Yep.
girl, and their kid was Molly Burrow.
Is he still
And the next one was Jackie Gleason's mother. Whatever her first name was, I don't know, but she was married to a man by the name of Gleason.
Okay.
And they lived in the area. And
How many kids were there? Grandma Judy said.
Grandpa there was 8, and Grandma Julia, I don't know what we're up to now, about 7, aren't we? Or 8, maybe 2. I understood there was like 10 or 12 kids altogether.
Let's see.
Okay, now
Grandpa Johnny, Marie, Emily, Beatrice, Johanna, William, Aunt Nancy, and his sister that married a Ryan.
Yeah.
Uncle
And
Dan.
then Aunt Nancy.
Right.
Oh
And
my,
then
now I need to go fishing.
There was 6 girls and 2 boys. That's all I ever heard about, you know.
You're stealing.
And
Wait, it's my turn.
back in those days, there was usually a lot of times 1 or 2 kids died, you know, the uncles had. But I never heard of anything, the ones I'm telling you about. No, with on Grandma's side,
Yes, I do.
we're up to
Uncle Rhodey, Aunt Bridget, Aunt Mary, Grandma Juju, and Uncle, and then we just
Danny.
Danny Ryan.
Yeah. And the next, there was a sister that was married to Gleason.
Who?
Gleason.
Gleason?
Yeah, it was Jackie Gleason's mother and father.
Okay. But you don't know her name.
I don't know her first.
She married a Gleason.
Gleason, right?
So it's a sister.
Yeah.
She
And
married a Gleason.
when I was in Ireland,
Did they just have the one?
they had Jack and a brother, Jim, and another, I don't know, that sister that lived in England. I don't know the names. I know Jack, Sean, and Jim, but I don't know the sister's name except other than she lived in.
So they had three.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Jack, Sean, Jim, and a sister.
Well, Jack, we call him Shawnee. Was Johnny. Yeah, no. Jack, the one because Jack
Jack
Gleason.
Gleason is Sean.
Yeah, we all call him Sean. Sean is Irish for Johnny.
So if there's a John, it could be Jack or Sean.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Are you guys playing?
Yeah, it's all fun.
And Seamus Burke is
Because I asked him if he had
is James and
Seamus.
Seamus
James.
is James, yeah. Well, everybody calls him Seamus. No.
I don't want to. I put him in my
And aside from that, when I was visiting
No, I had
Uncle Dan,
It's probably not stupid. bro.
Seamus Burke was with me, drove us down, and
Don't
we
leave
down.
him too close to the end of the table.
And it was his grandfather. And
If I tell you something.
I said, now what about the Gleasons? And I said that they're supposed to live around here near the Botany silver mines. And Seamus says, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know any Gleasons. And Uncle Dan says, yes, you know, it was my sister, was married to a Gleason, and he said,
They make guinea pigs.
one of this, well, Jack, he said, he didn't know that I knew it, but he said, he was one of the gang that came up and burned the castle. Down, Uncle Danny Ryan was like the gatekeeper for a castle right behind his house that was owned by English people. It eventually ended up, the ruins of it, they're belonging to the family. But he said, oh yeah, you go down the road and like, I don't know, like a mile or something, and make a left-hand turn over the little bridge, and then go this way, and then their house is on the right-hand side. And we went down, and my cousin Seamus said, doot, 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 you know, and the old man and woman came out up on a terrace like that. And he said, Gleasons? And he said, yes, you know. And he said, you got some relatives from America. He said, well, come in. And they didn't know who the hell I was. And I said, well, and he said, now who are you, you know, or how are you, like, connected? And I said, they said, well, when Jack went to America, his aunt looked out for him. Do you know her? And I said, yes, it was my grandmother. And they said when she died, her daughter took care of him. And she said, do you know who that is? And I said, yes, that's my mother. And they said, oh, they had a picture on the wall. I'm not sure if it was grandma or who. And they went and opened up a book and took out a newspaper thing where, like, the announcement of Grandma and Grandpa getting married, and with a picture of her. And they had for how many years?
This is his pain, just so he can. His leg hurts.
25, 30, I guess. Well, let me see. I was there in 1954.
I'll fluff him, honey.
They got married in the beginning of 28, so that's how many years.
Okay, but
We found out today Peter had gone over in '84.
Oliver doesn't get him on
I
you.
thought he did.
You
Yeah,
take him out.
he made a stopover coming from Sweden or
Oh,
something.
thank
He stopped
you.
over here 3 days.
Did you
want
rest?
Oliver
Did he
to chew them
find
up?
Oliver took those?
No, he didn't want him.
Oh, you didn't want
The
to?
conversation
Sure.
was
Thank
He
you,
wanted to make
hon.
sure he didn't get him
Thank
on
you.
I'm not really sure. Did Peter say he found any relatives when he stopped over for the 3
Yeah,
days?
Molly Burke.
Oh, he did?
And her daughter, Peggy.
Okay.
He didn't mention Seamus. Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's so
You are
nice.
so nice. Come
I
here.
have to get, do you want to pause it for a second? Or you ask questions? I have to get Gabe.
Would you help me?
He has to get some.
I can pause it. I don't know what kind of
You wanna,
questions.
you wanna turn it off, and are you
Yeah, I
coming
can turn
back?
it off.
Yeah, I just want to get dinner. He has to
Grandma, I
leave.
gave you to
Okay.
feed you. I want to.
Grandpa, your dad.
Got
Yeah.
28 minutes. Half hour.
There's not a lot, I can tell you, only, really back to his his grandparents, my grandparents.
Okay.
And,
So start there then.
And,
Did you know we needed
on either side, but I have, your mother should have it someplace, well, not the Eismans and the Gardners and the Bucklands, and, Grandma's,
Never mind, just go on.
Grandma's, or I say Grandpa's father, his father Eisman, was Charles H. Eisman. Well, no, let's start one generation before, and that
Before
was,
that even? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
my great-grandparents
Okay.
was Otis. Now you know where my middle name
Yep.
came from.
And
Annette.
John, right? Is John Otis, right?
Yep, Chucky,
Chucky's?
Charles Otis, and
Okay.
John Charles Otis.
Okay. Otis.
Otis and Annette. Annetta. Or Annette. Annetta.
And Annetta.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's where.
He was married to Annetta Buckland.
Okay. She was a Buckland.
She was a Buckland,
He
right?
was an Eisman.
Yes.
Okay.
They had two sons. George,
Forever?
who was married
I don't have
to a
it.
woman by the name of
All I have is my
Gertrude.
miniature golf game, and I have
I
the,
forgot.
What?
Levy, I think, but I'm not
the
positive
helicopter game.
right off now what.
I get that.
But all of this stuff is written down already,
It is.
and I think you should have a copy of this stuff with the Gardners.
All
And,
grass,
The one that Buddy
all
did,
the keys.
you're talking about?
you know, the one
Tree?
I did and sent it to all of you.
I did it.
Alright, you sent it.
Did you
But
know
any,
We do.
Probably do.
We'll just get some of this on tape.
I did it.
Okay, so George
George,
married Gertrude.
and they had two kids.
He's funny.
You watch your program up.
What was his
I gotta
name?
go out and get my phone out of the car.
He
I
was.
was gonna get my other one too.
Why is his name gone right out of my head? Eleanor was the girl, and the boy was Eaton. Eaton and Eleanor were their two kids.
Okay.
And Eleanor was married to a guy by the name of Maine, and I don't know if you want to go that route or not, you know, because Charles came next. He was a couple years younger than Uncle George. Charles H. Eisman.
He came after George.
Yeah, so there was George Eisman, and then came Charles H. Eisman. That was my grandfather.
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering with the H.
Henry.
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 And he was married to Minnie Gardner. Charles H. was married to Minnie Gardner. They had two children, Marion and Charles Gardner Eisman.
Okay.
And Marion,
So Grandpa's middle name was Gardner.
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Just like Uncle Buddy's middle name was Gardner.
I didn't know that.
He's William G. and
And
Charles L.
Aunt Marion died when she was like 39 or 40, after 39, I think.
Cancer, right?
Yeah. And she had three girls. One by her first husband, and her name was Roberta Jean Castler. That's her first husband was Richard Castler, and their daughter was we all called her Jeannie, but her name was Roberta Jean. And then she married a guy by the name of Ernie Silvernail.
Then she married, after Castler, she married
Yeah,
someone else?
yeah. They divorced. Castler divorced, and she married Ernie Silvernail. And they had 2 daughters, Carol and Joy. And then Grandpa.
I know his.
You got that.
I got whole bunch of these plants.
Now, were they were all
You mean how
Little
big
Falls?
right?
Yeah, they were. That's where they all were born. Yeah.
Otis, right to the beginning with Otis Eisman and Annette Buckland?
Yeah.
They were born in Little Falls?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about to be Halloween. So grab your garlic and get set for America's most haunted.
But didn't
Please count Mickey's
didn't Grandpa's
Oh, mother remarried down the
Yeah.
road.
Oh.
that's
To Fred Friedman.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to
Charles H. and Minnie were divorced when Grandpa was, I think, 5 years old.
okay.
They lived in Syracuse at that time. They moved to Syracuse, and he was quite a womanizer.
Okay. They divorced after they had moved to Syracuse.
Yeah, and when Grandpa was about 5 years old, and then Grandpa and Aunt Marion went back to Little Falls to live with Grandpa Charlie's Aunt Annette and Otis. They lived with their father's parents, and Grandma worked in Syracuse, and she would come weekends and live with her former in-laws also. This went on for a number of years, and then she married Fred Friedman. And after they were married, Aunt Marion was a little older, and she never did come to Syracuse, but Grandpa did.
How long was Charles H. Eisman?
Yeah,
He was Grandpa's father, your dad's father.
yeah.
Was he in his life a lot? Even though they divorced and Minnie remarried Fred
No.
Friedman, or was Fred
No.
Friedman more of a father to Grandpa? To your
He was more of a father, but Grandpa didn't want to take anything from him. Like, you know what I mean? To send him to college or anything. And he used to work. Grandpa Fred was an electrical contractor, and they had an electrical store on the first floor of their 3-story brick building, and they lived on the 2nd floor in the front apartment, and Grandpa and well, your Grandpa and Grandma and Buddy and I lived in the back apartment on the 2nd floor. And yes, he was much more of a grandfather to all of us than our own grandfather. Our own grandfather lived in New Jersey.
Oh, he ended up leaving Little Falls in Syracuse.
Oh yeah, he
and
was.
moved to
He
New
never
Jersey?
went back to Little Falls.
Okay.
He met some woman.
It's a bright spot.
His second wife. I don't remember. I know what her name was. I can't remember. They were married for a time, and they divorced, and he married a woman by the name of Emily from New Jersey.
Did he ever have any other children?
No,
Okay,
no.
so
Emily had her daughter from a previous marriage, and her name was Carolyn Rapp. You don't remember that? No.
Name sounds familiar, but
Carolyn Rapp. and she lived in New Jersey also. She was like pretty grown. We went to visit. Well, the thing was, it was not too friendly between Charles H. and Grandma, you know. And I think Grandpa asked them, you know, for whatever reason, you know, for the grandchildren or whatever, and they were fairly friendly, you know. When they come to Syracuse, I think they actually stayed at Grandma's house, and when we went to New Jersey, Grandpa Fred and Grandma and Dad and Buddy and I stayed at their house in New Jersey. And so that was, but he had really nothing to do with Grandpa growing up, you know. And he was pretty self-centered and like that, you know. And he would, later years he'd come to visit, you know, and, well, all right, I'm ahead of the story.
Fred Friedman is the one that taught Dad the masonry and electricity.
No, he taught him the electricity.
Well, where did he learn, who taught him how to do the masonry?
Grandpa John, he taught me.
Grandpa John,
He
that's
taught me,
right,
never
that's
taught
right.
Grandpa. I used to do all the masonry work.
Yeah, you're right. It was Grandpa John that did the masonry.
He was a master at finishing concrete and stuff. And so that's the father was off doing his thing, and he married Emily, and Emily had a couple couple sisters. She had another sister. They were not Catholic, but there was a sister turned Catholic and became a Franciscan nun, Sister Eugenia. You remember that name?
Yeah, of course I do.
And she was in Hawaii working in a leopard colony for years and years. She came back and lived down the street from us in the Franciscan Mother House on Court Street. I don't know if you can remember.
The monastery.
Right near, no, not the
Not the monastery, but
yeah, there was Maria College there and
the convent
the
school.
convent school.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she
St.
lived there.
Maria Regina College.
She lived there for a time, and then they, her Grandpa Charlie and Emily split up, and Grandpa Charlie drove her other two sisters up to visit their sister that was a nun, right down, you know, 4 or 5 blocks from us, and he was at our house. And the two sisters said, "Don't blame him. You know, it's not him, it's her. You know." And she wanted to. They're like 60s, in their 60s, and she wanted to charge him with the Mann Act for driving women across the state line for immoral purposes.
This was Emily's two sisters that he drove to Syracuse?
Emily wanted to, yes. Yeah.
Okay, and he drove them to Syracuse to
They're
visit
both
Sister
married,
Eugenia.
and they all know each other. You know?
That's where, didn't Sister Eugenia end up at Loretta Rest?
Yes, she had some kind of cancer or something like that.
Okay, I
But
was thinking
by
it was
blood,
tuberculosis.
They're not related to us.
Who?
By blood, they're not related
Oh, no.
to us.
No,
Yeah, they're
no,
just.
no. Mm-mm.
Mom used to, I think, visit Sister Eugenia quite a bit.
She did. I do remember. I don't remember her going.
Tippy toes.
Honey, you want me to help you?
Don't let them struggle.
Caught on tape. Let them struggle.
That's what Dave says to me. You're mean. No, actually he doesn't. It's Stevie. Stevie always goes, "You're mean." I said, "Yeah, because I'm making you eat your supper. I'm mean." He goes, "You are."
Okay. Now,
Okay, we're
well, we're done pretty much with Grandpa's family, right?
right
There's
now
not much.
until your cousin presents you with something. It takes the
Right.
Eisman
Oh, okay.
family back to 1500.
Oh, that's how far back it's gonna go, really?
Yeah, in Germany, and then around early 1700s, one of them came over here,
Oh, okay.
and I'm not sure if he was killed by the Indians. Him and his wife were the son in that, and let the kids go. I had heard the story, but not with the Eismans. I had heard it was with the Gardeniers, but it's not. He's got it off the computer stuff. Okay.
Mommy and me have some cold.
And the Eisman name was originally Eisenman.
But there is no Y.
Right,
No,
E-I. Oh,
I-S-E-N,
okay.
which means iron in German, yeah, Iron Man.
Oh, okay.
And when they came here, you back in those years, you could pick out whatever name you kind of wanted,
Yeah.
and it got changed to, like, instead of Eisenman to Eisenman, Eisenman, you know.
What was Buckland? What was her nationality? Do you know anything about her?
All of them were American going back the 1600s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Buckland, I don't know how diluted it would have been, but originally English. And we have a whole history going right back to where they came over here. And right through New Hampshire and right up. And
Any on the Mayflower, I wonder?
no, but a few
One
years
after,
later,
right.
a few years later than the
Oh, yeah.
Mayflower.
I remember Grandpa got that information. Yeah. It wasn't the Mayflower, it was after that, some of the relatives. The Gardenier relatives, right?
From Weymouth. No, that was the Bucklands. The Gardeniers came in through New York City and up the Hudson, the Albany area.
They owned part of Pearl Street or something in the 1600s?
Yes, yeah, and there's lots of Gardeniers out by us where we live. In fact, Brian Barker's best friend is a Gardenier.
Oh, really?
So anyhow, I didn't have the Eisman back very far, but Chucky has spent hours on the computer and hunting up this one and the false leads and eliminating stuff.
Yeah.
And you got the Bucklands. They're typed up someplace. The next one was the Gardeniers. I have those back to where they sailed from Holland on the good ship Herring.
So
And
Gardenier is
Dutch.
Dutch?
Yeah, like up in Albany in the state archives, they actually have people's names who came over on certain ships and things like that. You can research all that.
You know, in Nassau, the library has a whole file drawer full of Gardenier stuff.
Really? I wonder how many of our relatives are, like, that we could locate in Ireland that are, like, the children of these children.
Right,
Do you
of
know what
these,
I mean?
right, exactly.
Well, I think probably
I
a
mean,
lot of them.
I mean, how many of them actually continue to stay right there in the county of, like, Tipperary, or, like,
A
the
lot of
surround-
them.
Yeah.
Kit Spooner, Grandpa, it would be Grandpa John's brother's Bill's kids. I think it might have been the oldest daughter was Kitty, and she married a guy by the name of Joe Spooner. And he had a little repair garage, and he got the dealership for Volkswagen. Now it then became a big wheel. I mean, he had a dealership in Ross Gray, and another one in Neenah, and his Jack Sherlock managed that one, and I think he had like three different dealerships. And yes, there's a lot of them. Peter D'Amico met Molly Burke and Peggy, and he didn't mention Seamus, that was the other brother. but he went to their house, and I said, up the North Strand of Nottingham Street. And he said, yeah, it's just a little short street. I said, yeah, dead end street. And I said, I think it was 14 Nottingham. And he said, I think you're right. I think And I think he met Aunt Emily, I think he said. I'm not sure. But he met Molly Burke, anyhow. And doesn't remember if Patty was still alive or not, her husband. And so, yes, I'm sure you can go over there. And if you went to these different towns, they had like the Heritage Museum at these all these little towns. And, or the church records, and you could hunt them up. And Molly is dead now, and I don't think anybody lives in that house that I know of, you know. But maybe Seamus does, I don't know. And his sister got married, Peggy, and I don't know if she had any kids or... Seamus had some kids.
Yeah.
And I met his wife and a couple smaller kids, you know. And I was going to have him come over here and work on the grains with me, you know. He wanted to come to America.
Oh, he's the one that would break his mother's
Yes,
heart.
yeah. So I just dropped mentioning anything about it, yeah. But you saw his picture with his mother and me on the other side. There's one part of Grandma Friedman, Grandma Gardner, or Grandma Eisman, whatever you want to call her, my grandmother.
Minnie?
Yeah, Minnie. Her mother was a Burrell. You know the princess, what's her name? Princess, the one that died, Diane?
Yeah.
Her butler, his name was Burrell. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't think he's a relative, but my great-grandmother's maiden name was Fanny Burrell. And
How you spell the last name?
well, I think it's B-U-R-R-I-L-L.
B-U-R-R-I-L-L.
Yeah. That's exactly how this guy spells it.
That was your...
My great-grandmother. I knew her, and I knew Grandma Nett, both of them. And she died. Grandma Nett died, and she died a couple years later. Grandma Nett was 89 years old. She broke her hip.
So Fanny Burrell is Minnie Gardner's mother.
Right. Did your mother ever take you to the farm, the family farm? Down outside of Little
I
Farm?
have never been to it.
No?
Gone by it, and I know when we
Oh,
went
you
by
drive the
we would
throughway
beat.
and you see the big silos sticking up.
Yeah, and we would beat,
Yep, we
Yeah.
always beat, yeah.
but I've never been there.
Well, it's been in the family for, Christ, probably in the 1700s beginning. There was one of them.
Is that where Grandpa and Marion were living? They went back to...
No,
where did Otis and Annette live in Little Falls? They didn't live on the farm.
no. Otis and Annette lived on West Main Street in Little Falls.
Oh,
Okay.
right in the town.
In the town of Little
And
Falls.
the house is no longer there. It's they widened the road or something and took down some places, you know.
Is the farm a Gardner farm?
Gardner Farm, right?
Okay.
And a family cemetery is right on the property.
Oh, is it?
The last one that I know of to be buried there was Grandma Fanny. And I think she was 82 when she died. Grandma Nett was 89. But when I used to go down to the farm, they didn't have electricity in the farm at that time. And we all slept upstairs, the boys, and they'd come down and go out milking, and I'd wake up and I'd come down, and I had a little pair of how she had boots, the leather boots like the, or not leather, rubber boots that came up not to your knee, you know. And I'd come down and put those on to go out to the barn, you know. And Grandma would have a oil lamp running, going, and she had started a wood fire in the stove, and she'd be mixing up Johnny cake mix and cream gravy. She'd fry thin layers of salt pork, crispy, and make the cream gravy, and put the salt pork in the cream gravy, and and then make a big batch of Johnny cake. And when they'd come in, and I guess a kettle of oatmeal, and when they'd come in after milking, they'd all sit down and eat these huge breakfasts.
So who are the boys on the farm? Your cousins? I know, but what were their names?
John, Richard.
Well, the oldest one was Margaret, and then Betty, then John, and then Richard, and Burrell, Robert Burrell, and then Alice. She was the youngest.
That's how many there were? Margaret, Betty, John, Richard,
Yeah, 6.
Robert, and Alice?
Yeah, 6 of them, right?
And their last name was Burrell?
No, their last name was Gardner.
Gardner.
They were married, or their father was John Gardner, that was Grandma's brother. And Uncle Buddy and I would go down and stay for a month every summer on the farm, sometimes more than a summer, but more than a month.
This is still going. I can check the time on it. Oh, it's all right. I just wanted to, because I wanted to ask a question, but I don't want to keep.
Now, I don't know, I can tell you who
Should the question
Grandma
be?
Friedman's brothers and
I
sisters.
didn't know what kind of question.
That's one generation older than the ones you just wrote down.
Who's the mother? Father was John Gardner.
Yeah.
And they had Margaret, Betty, John, Richard. Who was the mother?
Their mother was, her last name was Carrick, and her first name was Mary Carrick.
And Uncle John was.
Uncle John was Grandma Friedman's brother.
Okay.
There was
So
Grandma.
it was your great Uncle John, wasn't it?
Yeah, would be, yeah. My her brothers and sisters. Grandma was the oldest, Minnie. Then came Alice and Aunt Margie. And then Uncle Burl, Uncle John, Uncle Ray, Uncle Harold, and Uncle
Flashing, it's out of
Harvey.
minutes.
They were all brothers and sisters.
It's flashing, it's out of
Grandma.
minutes.
Oh.
Yep, 0 minutes. It's done. The end for now.
Well,
The end for now.
whenever
Take two.